I grew up surrounded by music. My dad was a semi-pro musician in Calgary, and my earliest recollections are of going to the theater with him for rehearsals, and going to the radio station with him. He played in the CJCJ, as it was then, radio orchestra. I thought that that's what you did, because our house was full of singers and musicians all the time.
The Honorable Tommy Banks was born in Calgary. He moved to Edmonton in 1949. He studied piano as a child and began his career in 1950 at the age of 14 in the band of the jazz saxophonist Don Thompson. He began to learn the lessons of life and the music business on the road.
I learned a lot from them, and I also, by observation, saw that the music business, as Big Miller used to say, the phrase is music business. Music is this long. Business is this long. And that's true. If you're going to be in the music business, you have to be in the music business.
Banks' reputation as a gifted jazz pianist grew quickly, performing often at a new Edmonton jazz club called the Yardbird Suite. That's where Tommy met Harry Pynchon, which was the beginning of a long professional and personal relationship.
There was a well-known jazz program on CBC radio in Toronto, and they used to keep talking, if you're in Edmonton, you must go to the Yardbird Suite and hear this Tommy Banks, 17 years old or 18 years old, fantastic player. So when we moved here in 1956, that's one of the first things I did. I said, well, I gotta go to find this Yardbird Suite, and I found it. And he said, bring your horn? And I said, oh yes.
Tommy was also the music director at the Orion Musical Theatre in Edmonton from 1954 to 1958. It was there where he met his wife, Ida, a professional model and singer. It wasn't long until Ida's role in the music business evolved.
It was a perfect time because the musicians were everywhere, and the wonderful idea that the liquor board would allow the two-night cabarets. They did everything. They just brought everything back to life. And that was a very good era.
In addition to playing with some of the biggest names in music throughout the 60s, Tommy hosted his own radio show at CKUA called The Solo Piano of Tommy Banks. And in the late 60s, television came calling.
And now, here's our host for the next 1 hour, that jolly old elf himself, Tommy Banks. Hey.
He could have gone to LA 100 times. Vegas. Well, that's a good idea, but we can do that here. But there are a lot of people had to be talked to. And it was hard finding people with deep pockets in Edmonton to do music. He found a way.
CBC in Toronto were looking for a talk variety show. And Armand Barry, who was the program director at the time, asked us if we'd like to have a try at a talk variety show. And I thought that would be a good idea, and Don McRae thought that would be a good idea, and McCollum thought it would be a good idea. We had asked a couple of people to be hosts, and they couldn't or wouldn't. And we said, well, for the purposes of the pilot, I'll do it. It's sort of a default thing. And we made those 8 pilot programs, and we were astonished when they sent back and said, we'd like you to produce the national talk variety show. Please come and meet us. So he said, now, when can you move? And Don McRae said, move what? And he said, well, you moved to Toronto to do the show. And Don McRae, typical Edmonton quixotic, fully supported by all of the rest of us, said, well, we're not moving anywhere. The show will come from Edmonton, which was like speaking Greek.
Tommy became host, pianist, arranger, and conductor for The Tommy Banks Show, which aired on CBC TV from 1968 to 1974 and 1980 to 1983, and then from 1974 to 1976 in syndication originating from ITV.
It was an opportunity to actually make a living as a musician at that time, which was nothing short of miraculous. We were working all the time, but we were working in a club, and the club couldn't pay us extravagantly, so we appreciated working. We appreciated the fact that we got to play with some of the biggest names in the entertainment business.
Something in the way you move attracts me like no other lover.
Tommy also starred on Celebrity Review, a TV variety series produced in Vancouver in the late 70s. The move to Vancouver was bittersweet.
Well, a lot of people don't realize to do a television show like that here in Edmonton, we might want someone on for 5 or 6 minutes. 3 days out of their life to come here from Los Angeles or New York or somewhere. A day to get here, a day to do the show, and a day to get back home. So that made it very difficult. The executive producer, Wendell Wilkes, and Tommy made the decision that we ought to move to Vancouver.
In the 1970s, Tommy was heard frequently on the CBC's Jazz Radio Canada, playing with his jazz quartet and with his big band, featuring Clarence Big Miller and other jazz greats such as P.J. Perry. P.J. played with Tommy at the 1978 Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland. The double LP of the concert won the Juno Award as Jazz Recording of 1978.
The reason that the band won the Juno, I think, and the reason that the recording is so good is that our band had a lot of opportunities to play. Edmonton was very vital, very exciting during those days, and there was opportunity for Tommy's big band to play. So we had real good musicians in the area because Tommy was able to attract good talent because of the production that he got involved in. He and his friends in television and radio and backers, people with money to invest, put on world-class production in the Edmonton area. And in order to do that, it required talent.
In addition to recording several albums over his career and conducting many orchestras around the world, Tommy provided musical direction for the ceremonies of the 11th Commonwealth Games, Expo 86, the World University Games, and the 15th Olympic Winter Games in Calgary. He has also produced and conducted command performances for Her Majesty the Queen and the royal family, and for President Ronald Reagan. Beyond musical performance, Tommy is passionate about arts in education.
Arts education in the schools is a different matter. People pay lip service to it without giving effect to it. And in this province, it varies from school to school to school to school because so much of it is decided on that highly localized basis. The statistical facts are irrefutable with respect to the effect upon academic performances in all other studies of arts and cultural education on students, and the younger, the better.
He was founding chairman of the Alberta Foundation for the Performing Arts. When he left, the foundation established the Tommy Banks Award for school band directors. He also served as chair of the music committee of the Board of Governors of Alberta College. In 1983, Grant MacEwan College asked him to chair the music program. He credits the success of the program to his predecessor, George Naylor, who Tommy says figured out what MacEwan's music program should be.
Not an academic, classically oriented music program, but a program to assist in the training of musicians who were going to go into the music business. And he devised that pretty well on his own, and it evolved over the years, and I had nothing to do with the foundations of it, or with its design, or with its essential character. I simply was a caretaker for a few years.
Tommy's humility, like his accomplishments, doesn't go unnoticed.
Apart from being humble, always, which doesn't mean he's a pushover. I just mean that he's humble about how he conducts himself, he never takes undue credit for anything in it. It was him.
His humility is matched only by his commitment to community, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. He may not seek the credit for his contributions to his industry and his community, but others feel differently, which is why he has received, in addition to his Juno Award, the Sir Frederick Haltane Prize, a Gemini Award, an honorary Doctorate of Laws from the University of Alberta, the Alberta Order of Excellence, and the Order of Canada, just to name a few.
He got a phone call in the little pub they were in, which was the end of the day for them, and it was right next door. And it was Chrétien, Mr. Chrétien, on the phone. And Tom, of course, thought that somebody was playing a good joke, but he recognized the voice, and that was his invitation from Mr. Chrétien to ask if Tom would consider being part of the Senate.
The call to serve in the Senate came in 2000. Tommy's performance as a senator was as prolific as his music career. He served as a member of numerous committees. Grant Mitchell served with him on the Standing Committee on Energy, the Environment, and Natural Resources.
I just marveled at how this person could grasp the technical issues of every feature of that act, bring it together, consolidate it, summarize it for the reporting process, and then present it in the Senate, probably without notes. Of
the many acts Senator Banks authored or sponsored, there was one he particularly remembers.
I am the author of the Statutes Repeal Act, which sounds really boring, but is actually fairly important. And I was the sponsor of an act that has made a slight change to the law of bail, of the conditional release laws, that I hope will have a difference in perhaps saving a life or two in the future that were unfortunately lost in the past.
He was very effective at creating relationships. I mean, everybody liked Tommy on both sides, and there's a tradition of tributes, 3-minute speeches the last day you're in the Senate, and I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised that more conservatives got up to speak about him than liberals even, although we all loved him, and we do love him. But just it wasn't, he was not particularly partisan.
Senator Banks said farewell to the Senate on December 16, 2011.
The thing that I think is also equally interesting about Mr. Banks is the fact that he does all of the things that he gets involved in, he does with equal ability as he does in the music business. Fantastic. No ego, no games, down to earth, straight ahead, take care, sees a problem, knows how to solve it, goes about doing it.
He also has the ability to be a friend and a colleague and a leader at the same time. He can make the tough decisions that affect us without separating us.
He cares deeply about fairness and justice in his own city and his own province in this country.
He's curious about everything and sees it through, moves on to the next thing if they ask. He's very, very accommodating. And he enjoys life.
Jazz musicians will tell you that it's all about feel. For Tommy Banks, his music and his life have all been about feelings. Feelings that have always been his keys to success.